Basically, if you look at slide number 9 that you were referring to, it says that if you have a condition in the contract that if the debtor were to delay the payment of the debt, the debtor will be asked to pay extra. So this term, according to the fatwa, is not valid. Is considered as shart batil, okay, invalid condition, because it is considered as riba. Okay, the reason being, the Quran says you can only take your principal amount. Okay, so you take back your debt. Okay, I'm not saying that your debtor cannot be forced to pay the debt. The debtor can be forced to pay the debt, but you cannot force the debtor to pay more than the debt taken. That is considered as just from the Sharia perspective. And the mechanism, because of moral hazard, like Mustafa was saying, people became morally tempted, they're tempted, not morally, immorally tempted not to pay. So that's why they have allowed for the penalty gharama. Basically, you can charge an amount to be channeled to charity. So the person promised if he were delaying the payment, he will have to pay, let's say, 5%, and this will be given to charity. So this is to deter. So he still have to pay the full amount of the debt, but because of the delay, he would have to pay extra amount to charity. And this is actually to deter. He knows he have to pay extra, then he will pay on time. So he will pay the bank the full amount of the debt and not more than that. Okay. I hope I've answered your question. There's one more question here.
They are charging defaulters always with a penalty, and you can see in the balance sheet of the Middle Eastern banks that they have huge amounts of money, or let's say significant amount of money in the charity accounts. So a lot of people naturally default for whatever reason. Can we have the next question over here? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prof. Dr. Engku Rabiah, for your presentation. Number one, I have two questions. Number one, about this charging penalty. If I'm not mistaken, there has been no fatwa from Majma' Fiqhi, from Awfi. I think it's only the opinions of some contemporary scholars allowing to charge penalty and then channel to the charity, and the bank can only take the actually incurred cost. Okay, I need your clarification on this. Number two is about, I just want to share about the issue of Kolbadain. So this is actually among the, to me, the most controversial issue, and some of the Islamic banks, they don't allow to do the rollover. And the very essence is actually, it is a device, just hila, because Kolbadain is just to create another indebtedness to cover previous indebtedness. Gali lubang baru nak timbus lubang lama. Buat hutang baru nak bayar hutang lama. You just create a new indebtedness, and of course with a markup price, because you are buying a new commodity in order to pay the previous indebtedness. So this has been discussed thoroughly by scholars in the past, and also Sheikh Nazir Hamad mentioned it. But interestingly, I mean, according to the fatwa issued by Bank Negara, it seems like Bank Negara allow, okay, when the customer, okay, having a difficulty, then you say, why? Well, we can sell to you, then enter into another tawarruk contract. Okay, we sell to you another commodity murabahah, and of course, we can, work out what is the new profit rates, which we can factor in all the costs of the previous indebtedness, and then we can consolidate the loan, and then it becomes only one loan, and then you can extend, okay, the tenure. So the issue here is, I have a trouble when I want to tackle the issue of time value of money, okay? Because in Islam, yeah, we do have, I mean, to some extent, we do have, but I mean, if we can do, I mean, over and over, roll over, there is no difference. Because for the conventional practice, of course, you can delay. The more you delay, the more we can charge you. So for the Islamic bank, the more you delay, we can do another tawarruk. Don't worry, we can enter into 10 tawarruk. Don't worry, go on. Don't worry, we can do. So to me, we have to, we must have a parameter, guidelines. I mean, the fatwa mentioned by Bank Negara is very, I mean, very open, and there is no guidelines. For example, perhaps in your earlier presentation, I mean, in your, I think the second slide, when you define refinancing, it seems to me that the definition is quite impressive, because there is no, here the customer has no financial distress. So if the customer has no financial distress, perhaps, I mean, we can take this into consideration, perhaps to be a guideline. If you want to do it, perhaps in condition that the customer has not yet, meets this financial distress. If he has financial distress and then we ask him, we impose him, so this is another issue, because there is an issue definitely, because we force him to enter into the contract to buy a new commodity, which he doesn't want to buy the commodity, but because we can mark up the price and we can extend the time. So I don't know. I need your opinion on this. Jazakumullah khairan katsiran. Barakallahu fikum.
Thank you very much.
To the first question on the imposition of gharama or penalty, yes, it's true. It's not coming from Majma'. It's actually just the opinion of some of the Sharia boards of some of the banks in response to the complaints by the bank that their customer seems to take payment and servicing their Islamic financing lightly, knowing that there's no additional charges. So this was actually allowed by some Sharia boards of some banks, but I don't think by the Majma' as such. Because generally, if you look at the past, the method resorted by the scholars in order to deter and to punish the defaulter is more like punishment, physical. You get in prison, okay? Or maybe you have a term in the contract. If the debtor were to delay, the debtor will have to do like community service at the house of the creditor or something like that for 1 week, and then something like that to physically punish the person, to deter the person, rather than financial addition to the original amount of the debt. Because if you look at in the past, they go up to whipping the debtor so that the debtor pay, or to deter the debtor from not paying. You don't pay, you will be whipped. Okay, this is to deter the debtor who is delinquent. Because at the moment you put financial more money for the time, then the issue of it being similar with the riba which is prohibited will immediately come. And coming to the question of rolling over of the debt, like you have said, if you look at the whole picture, then you don't see the spirit, the spirit behind the prohibition of riba being observed if you allow for a person to just roll over the debt with extra payment by entering into various contracts. But in the context of the SAC ruling, perhaps I would like to clarify, it's actually in the context of issuers of sukuk. If you look at because the ruling is given as a response to a query given by the industry. So I believe that it's more of like you have a company, let's say having a bridging financing under Islamic contract with a bank, and then suddenly this company also wants to do a sukuk issuance. Okay, and this sukuk issue actually involve perhaps a bigger project with a larger sum of money. So as part of the proceeds of debt issuance is going to be used to pay off the previous debt. I guess that is the scenario, rather than what you said just now, like in financial hardship and then you dig another hole and use that soil in order to cover up the previous hole. Okay, so that is, I think, the context. But of course, clarification can also be made to the central bank with regards to the actual scope of that ruling. But if you look at the context of the ruling, it's more towards issuers of sukuk, and you use also the proceeds of that issuance to pay off previous debt obligation between the same customer to the financier who is also participants in the sukuk. Okay. Yeah.
A lady? Okay. We always endorse equality.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. This is a very short question. Okay, you said just now that the Bank Negara do allow 2 types of penalty, which is 1% if it is within the tenure, and IIM rate if it is after the maturity. Right now, there is an attempt, this is a real case, whereby, say for example, it is a very short term financing, like Islamic overdraft, for example. So after the tenure, what they are trying to do is that, because the bankers are very smart, they try to reschedule, say for example to extend for 6 months, and they want to invoke this resolution by Bank Negara, and they want to charge IIM rate because they are saying that this is after the tenure. So what is your view on this, whether the resolution by Bank Negara could cover this case or not?
As to the actual scope of this resolution, because the resolution by the SAC is normally general, and when you apply it to specific product, it will be the GPIT who will see whether it will fall under which resolution, because resolution is in response of certain questions. Okay, so for that question, in fact recently the central bank was actually revising their ta'wid mechanism and was asking for proposal from the Islamic financial institution for a new mechanism for calculation of ta'wid. And I think IIiBF has come up with a number of proposals, and finally my understanding is they have agreed to return back the ball to the central bank to decide. Although before they wanted IIiBF to propose a new framework, because in their proposal I think they wanted to include, among others, the rate that the bank is paying to their depositors as part of their actual cost, which of course the JPIT said no, this is not considered as actual cost, because this is between the bank and their mudarabah depositor under separate contract compared to the contract between the bank and their debtor. So there are a number of other issues, and finally they told the central bank, okay, the central bank can still continue with the 1% and the IIM rate. I know the 1% is, I think we are still looking at it again. So if you have that query, perhaps you can ask so that they can have a complete review of the whole thing, whether it will apply to only long-term financing or also to very short-term ones like the overdraft. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor. We saw today again that science without religion is lame, and that religion without science is blind. Thank you very much for your attendance. Please endorse our institute by your prayers or also financially, so that our discussions can continue. Thank you very much for coming.